Good morning and a very warm welcome back to the second plenary session of the second day of the inaugural Indonesia Economic Summit. I'm very excited and honored to be your moderator for this upcoming session. It promises to be a very interesting and stimulating session on a topic that is close to our mind and our hearts, which is looking ahead and investing to Indonesia's full growth potential. And to join us today to inspire us and to illuminate us on insights on investing in Indonesia's full growth potential, we have four distinguished and very accomplished panelists whom I have the honor to actually welcome, who actually need no further introduction, but I will just say a few words to welcome them on stage. And first, we have Bapak Anindya Bakrie, who is the chairman of KADIN and CEO of Bakrie and Brothers. Pak Anindya, welcome you to the stage. Pak Anindya is, of course, a well-known business leader, an investor, and a philanthropist. Welcome, Pak, who, among other things, has also set up the Bakrie Center Foundation for education, healthcare, and supporting disaster relief in Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Anindya. Secondly, we would like to welcome someone who is a serial entrepreneur, an intrepid business builder who never ceases to amaze with his encyclopedic knowledge of people and places that he has been and people that he has met. We would like to welcome Bapak Hashim Djojohadikusumo, chairman, founder of Arsari Group, and the President's Special Envoy on Sustainability at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. Welcome, Pak Hashim, and thank you for joining us today. Our third speaker and panelist is none other than Bapak Dr. Wirakusumah, the CEO of Indonesia Investment Authority, INA. Pak Ridha brings over 30 years of experience in global and local institutions, including formerly as CEO of Bank Permata, CEO of Bank Maybank Indonesia, as well as the head of Indonesia for KKR and Company. Welcome, Pak Ridha. And fourth, last but certainly not least, we would like to welcome Mr. Tadashi Maeda, the chairman of the board of Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, that has been instrumental in investing in Indonesia. Thank you for joining us, Maeda-san. Maeda-san is also the special advisor to the Japanese Prime Minister on topics related to the energy transition, and we are very honored to have you here today, all the way from Japan. Jadi Bapak dan Ibu, this is going to be a session where I hope we will be able to discuss important topics about what it means to reach Indonesia's full growth potential. As we all know, Indonesia has set an ambitious goal to achieve 8% growth within the next 5 years. And I think none of us will argue that this is truly a huge aspiration, a big ambition. I don't think anyone will say, well, can you be more ambitious than that? I think this is ambitious enough for Indonesia. Now, the question is, how are we going to get there? And I hope this session will help to illuminate some of the insights to that. Now, the McKinsey Global Institute, or MGI in short, has been conducting research on the Indonesian economy. It's taken almost a year. The report is not yet published, but I would like to share a few insights to put the context for this session. In Indonesian, we call this bocoran. Ini bocoran laporannya MGI. Yang belum dipublish. The first highlight of that report was global benchmarking of all the countries in the world that have achieved high income in the past 20 years, right? And what they did, MGI did, was look back in history to when those economies were at the same level of economic development as Indonesia today, roughly $5,000 GDP per capita back then, and track their trajectory to become high-income economy. What it found was interesting. Most economies actually did not escape the middle income trap, unfortunately. Those were the economies that roughly grew at 2, 3, or even 4% for many, many years. Some have reached high income after 40 years or 50 years. Some haven't reached high income. But then there was a group of countries that actually accelerated and became high income economies from middle to high income within 15 to 25 years. And those economies actually grew at an average rate of 6 to 9%. 6 to 9% over the 15 to 25 years. So I guess the first insight is if you want to become a high-income economy as fast as possible, you need breakthrough growth. And you need to do it in a way that is different from many others. The second insight was when you look at the enterprise level, the firm level perspective, what MGI found was those high-income economies actually have a larger proportion of employment in large and medium enterprises. So in other words, they actually fostered the growth of large corporations and medium-sized corporations to be the backbones of the economy. In a way, it's intuitive because these corporations invest more in productivity and in growth and therefore drive the nation's GDP per capita. The third and final insight that I will share is we also looked at how each of these high-income economies accumulated capital. Now, it's very obvious. Of course, a high-income economy has more capital accumulation. But what we found was they didn't just focus on dollars and cents or rupiahs of investment. They actually invested in 5 forms of capital that they built consistently over 15, 20, 25 years. First, financial capital, that's obvious. That's the dollars and cents and rupiah. But then they also invested in human capital to make the workforce ready. They also invested in infrastructure capital, which is, of course, we are no stranger to that here in Indonesia. We've benefited from that. But interestingly, the last 2 forms of capital as well. Institutional capital, building institutions to make it easier to set up, to grow businesses, to ensure rule of law, good corporate governance, and so on. They also invested in that. And last but not least, which I found very intriguing, very hard to measure, entrepreneurial capital. How is it culturally for people to set up new businesses? Do you encourage them? And when they fail, do you give them a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance? And how do you ensure that you support all these SMEs to keep growing? So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the introduction to looking ahead, investing in Indonesia's future growth potential. I'd like to turn to our first panelist, Pak Anindya. The World Economic Forum in Davos just concluded recently, I believe. You were there, and we would like to ask you, what is your sense of the global sentiment these days with all that is going on, and especially on Indonesia and the investment climate for Indonesia?
Thank you very much. So about a month ago, we were there with a couple of colleagues here as well. The talk of the town is about where would the growth be in 2025. So the 3 countries they're talking about is the United States, Indonesia, and India. Because at the end of the day, growth story is quite rare, especially in this, quite complex world today. The US indeed, because back then it was 1 week after the inauguration of President Trump. He said a lot of things, but most people have seen President Trump 2016, 2020, so they could guess a little bit, although most people think he's much more measured right now. Number 2, they talk about India before we talk about Indonesia, because India has scale, and very soon it's going to be the 4th largest economy in the world, replacing, I believe, Japan, just statistically speaking. But Indonesia is really the talk of the town because of a couple of things. Number 1, people believe the growth will be there. So maybe not 8% right away, but over the course of 4 or 5 years, it could be done because they know very well the domestic consumption is strong. I think about 5.2%. And number 2, they think that Indonesia has the right momentum. But not only momentum, but trust momentum as well. And apparently with President Prabowo in place and also going around the world trying to strengthen that confidence. It helps a lot, especially in the business sector. And the third one, they mentioned, certainly we have scale as well. 285 million people, and they believe that Indonesia could be, we have a lot of work to do, but the gateway to ASEAN. So the mood is that way. On the one hand, it is a complex world. People are unsure, a lot of choppiness here and there, but they look for growth in those countries. Now, what's interesting, 1 week after Davos, President Prabowo actually went to India to see PM Modi. So the two countries get together, and those two countries are also in BRICS now. People really turn their heads, right? They want to know what these countries are up to. And one thing that's interesting about these two countries are, stipulated in your 3 points, right? Number one, they want to grow well and beyond 2, 3, now even 5%. India maybe 6, 7%. And number two, what's also interesting is both countries actually invest in human capital. What a lot of people see is that what President Prabowo is trying to do is to unlock the capital tied up in the infrastructure and pull it into the human capital by way of free meals, free medical checkup, affordable housing, and so on and so forth. So people really believe in that. It's a bold move because you may not see the result right away, maybe in 5 to 10 years, but it's a necessary move because the demographic bonus is not going to come twice in our lifetime. So anyhow, just to stop quickly. And also, one more thing, the talk of the town is AI, right? Now the train has left the station with DeepSeek found. If China can do one, China will do another 100 very soon. And what they are looking for is countries that have applicability use case, and Indonesia will be the one, right? So it is not more about the technology, like people don't talk about who found the internet, but the applicability of AI will be huge for countries like Indonesia, even in the same initiatives that Pak Prabowo is talking about, the free meals, free medical checkup, affordable housing. There are many data that I think we can learn from.
Thank you very much, Pak Anindya, for setting the scene on the global investment sentiment on Indonesia, as well as the measures that are being taken here in Indonesia. I'd like to turn to Pak Hashim. Now, this question is about, over the past 5 years, Indonesia has attracted foreign direct investments and quite successfully in the downstream mineral resource sectors. Now, one concern or one opportunity you might add is that how about growth in high-income sectors like manufacturing and value-added services? For us to become a high-income economy, we probably need to also unleash new growth engines to get to a higher growth rate. And so I wanted to ask you, what are your views on how Indonesia can unleash new growth engines in order to take breakaway growth?
Khoon Tee, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think I want to just say, before I answer your question, I'd like to just say in response to what Anindya said. So actually, I'm much more optimistic about reaching 8%. We talked about a few years over the time. I'm actually very optimistic in the last 3-4 months that we will and we will actually surpass 8%, and I'll give you the reasons why. First of all, this is even talking about non-high-tech, basic needs, basic industries. Free meal program. Prabowo, when he became president on the 20th of October, the budget for free meals was 71 trillion rupiahs, which is about $4 billion. In the last 2 weeks, he has added another 100 billion rupiahs, which is about $6 billion odd. The National Planning Agency, Bappenas, estimated in October with 71 trillion rupiahs expenditure for free meals, it would add 0.83% to economic growth. With an additional 100 trillion rupiahs, their prognosis is 2% incremental growth. This is on top of the 5.3% that was presented in October as a growth. So the free meal program by itself will add 2% to the 5.3%. And why? Because expenditures will be made directly to the local economies. We expect to provide 82 million at a steady state with 82 million people to be fed every day. We'll need 82 million eggs every day. We'll need 82 million chicken sticks, drumsticks, chicken wings every day. We will need vegetables every day. We will need rice every day. We will need bean curd, tempeh every day. 82, that's a huge fillip, a huge stimulus to the economy. And we estimate with just the partial program, 171 trillion. That's already 2% additional economic growth. It's just basic arithmetic, basic mathematics. One other program, and this is what I'm being responsible for, I've been assigned to oversee the National Public Housing Program, which some of you may know already. The target, this is a vicious target, but we think it's doable, it's feasible. 3 million housing units per year for the next 10 years. That's the target. 1 million apartment units in the urban areas, 2 million single-family homes in the rural areas, including coastal villages for the farmers, for the fishermen and so forth. We estimate we can increase with 3 million units a year, 185 linkages tied to the housing sector, 185. Cement, aluminum, furniture, and the list goes on, steel, the list goes on 185 linkages. When we do steady state, 3 million units a year, we estimate we can increase our economic growth by 2 to 2.5% a year. That is already over 8%, Khoon Tee. That's already. Now, why am I bullish? Why am I optimistic? Because we already have today sources of investment into the housing sector. Qatar, the Qatar government, I already announced it 2 weeks ago. The Qatar government has already committed to fund and to develop 3 to 5 million units a year. Sorry, not a year, 3 to 5 million units. A Qatari private sector businessman and his group are going to do 1 million units. That's just the state of Qatar by itself. The United Arab Emirates has committed to do 1 million and considering more. These are just 2 countries. Just 2 countries. I've been to Beijing 3 times this year, and the Chinese government, the Chinese construction companies are very, very keen to come to Indonesia. Why? Because the Chinese construction sector is depressed. They're looking for other markets. So we've come at the right time. Yeah? Indonesia's demand matches China's requirement. So there again, I was with you, Masen, in New Delhi. The Indian construction sector can build houses, they claimed, for about $3,000 to $4,000 per unit. $3,000 to $4,000. This is outside the land cost. So, at steady state, 3 million units a year, we hope to do for the next 10 years, 3 million a year, that's 30 million units. This will drive investment growth by about 2 to 2.5%. So that is already 9%. That's not including the big projects that we want to do, aluminum and so other projects. Does not even include all the power generation that PLN wants to do. They want to do 7 gigawatts a year for the next 15 years. That's not included in the 8%, by the way, or 8 to 9%. And then finally, internet connectivity. I'm going to quote McKinsey. McKinsey did a study a few years ago about the impact of internet connectivity, especially low-cost, affordable internet connectivity on economic growth. And by the way, I'm getting involved in this business. Why? Because it's going to be providing low-cost internet connectivity. And I quote you, Khoon Tee, or your colleagues. For every 10% of the Indonesian population which has accessibility to the internet, it adds 0.7 to 1.3% a year, yes? So I'm quoting you, 1% a year is, I think, conservative. That is already, dare I say, that's already 10%. I just proved to you. 8% minimal growth rate, Khoon Tee. Okay? Now, what are the high growth? I think AI, data centers. I was in Japan meeting some Japanese companies. Very keen on AI, Yamaya-san. Very keen on data centers. Indonesia is blessed with a lot of clean energy, and we have a lot of water, ladies and gentlemen. You know, people forget. They talk about clean energy, but they forget the water. Many countries in the world don't have water. And what do they do? They resort to expensive solutions to the lack of water, which is desalination or nuclear. We don't have to. Indonesia doesn't have to go to nuclear for clean energy, for water. Okay? So this is, again, I think is very important. And then, by the way, I had a meeting with Toyota. I had a long meeting with Toyota. They say they want to have Indonesia as a manufacturing hub for the global south. They want to, Toyota Indonesia exports to 80 countries in the world. Can you imagine? Including Mexico, by the way. I was surprised. Toyota Indonesia exports to Mexico. And they want to do more with Mexico. What do they need? They need a free trade agreement with Mexico. That's where I come in. Okay? That's where I come in. I can help companies which need free trade agreements with other countries. So I'm very, very optimistic, very bullish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Hashim. Very, very inspiring. I'd like to turn our attention to foreign direct investments. And I'd like to put this question to Pak Ridha. Now, you know, clearly we are not alone in the world in attracting foreign direct investments. Countries around our region, right? Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam are also making moves competitively to attract more global FDI, as we are. So given this situation, how should Indonesia increase its competitiveness as an investment destination for global investors?
Okay, well, thank you and good to be here. I think we're going down from a big picture down to Hashim has eloquently talks a lot about what Indonesia potential is. Let me bring it down to the micro level and what we have not only done, but also see in the Indonesian potential. Now, when you talk about FDI, some says FDI is necessary. Some says FDI is evil. Some says FDI is necessary evil. But joke aside, go back to what INA is, and I'm going to try to give an example. INA, which was established 973 working days ago, has invested now about $4 billion with 14 countries, partners, and their AUMs, our partners' AUM is about $15 trillion. But to be able to bring in those money that can invest anywhere, we need to be able to show that Indonesia is a place to invest. I'm going to give you a couple examples. One is in healthcare. We went from zero. We now own the largest hospital chain in Indonesia. We bring in Swire from Hong Kong. The Bali International Hospital, which will employ the first foreign doctor, are our portfolio companies. We own the largest pharmaceutical retail. We now also set up a blood plasma plant, which is now 52% finished. Now, this blood plasma is substantial because we are today import 100% of the plasma need, like albumin or immunoglobulin. These are the key ingredients for us for health sovereignty and health security. Now, it has been over 15, 20 years that we were not able to produce blood plasma. Our Red Cross PME actually collected 4 million liters of blood, but they only use the red blood cell. What do they do with the plasma and the white blood cell? They throw it away. and then we import 100%. So today with that plant, which the tolling will start this February, the plant will actually finish by the end of this year, we will be not only 100% sufficient, but also will be exporting the plasma derived. So I'm talking about a potential in healthcare. Now, many of you know there is a lot of drug manufacturers in Indonesia, but do you know that 95% of the API, which is the ingredients, are imported? And that API actually comes from the petrochemical base. So if you talk to Pertamina, we need to just drive that one, and then boom, it's gonna be able to be supplied to the drug manufacturers. So I totally agree with Hashim that 8% seems to be not only reachable, it's actually, you can actually exceed, but you have to be able to be extremely focused and extremely surgical in terms of where you are. I'll give you the second example. The second example is in the EV batteries. We produce, we control nickel. However, almost 100% of the EV in Indonesia are using LFPs, lithium-based. But to be able to win in EV industry, we actually need to play on both sides. We need to play nickel, we need to play on the lithium side. We have now invested in Kendal, an LFP, lithium ferrophosphate cathode active material, increasing it from 30,000 ton to 120,000 ton, which will be the largest facility of LFP cathode producer in the world outside China. We hope the president will be able to open it up and kick it off, but we have invested at 30,000, it's going to increase to 120,000. Just to put that things in perspective, 120,000 ton of cathode active material from that plant should be enough to actually power 700,000 cars. Now, think about it. In Indonesia, there's 870,000 cars on the road sales every year. Actually, you can actually not only, today, the production of that plant is being exported to many countries. We signed with LG, we signed with Ford, we signed with now Teslas are looking into us. So the point I'm trying to make is EV is unbelievable. But this is one that I want to give a warning. Hopefully, Pak Hashim can take this on. The warning that Indonesia, if we're not fast, we're going to be left behind by Thailand, which is now the focus. They have a focus on auto. But you know what? Indonesia has the market. Indonesia has the raw materials. Indonesia actually, the reason why this company invests with us in Kendal is because we have electricity cost superiority, we have labor cost superiority, we also have natural resources. So it's for us to lose as for us to gain, but we could do that. That's the second one. The third one is on infrastructure. We now finance with ADIA, which is the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund, and APG, which is, kalau orang Indonesia bilang, dana pensiun bekas penjajah kita dulu ya. They invest with us in Trans Sumatra for 50 years. So if the infrastructure capital is being reduced to do something else, we should not be worried if we can actually build up and partner with foreign direct investors. So I want to close right there, but just try to give you an example that if we work very closely with them, we should not make FDI an evil, which is like extractions and then we become poor, but we could make them necessary and win-win. And we hope the INA's existence, that we have been partnered with sovereign wealth fund, asset managers, strategic pension funds, will be able to then help as an example for others to also see the potential of Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Ridha. So FDI as a necessary good, not a necessary bad or evil. Thank you, Pak Ridha. And I'd like to pose the fourth question to Maida-san. Now, we heard from the previous panel and also the previous day, all these geopolitical trends that are, hitting the news almost daily, trade barriers, tariffs, and so on and so forth. And given this global, I would say, investment climate that we face, how should Indonesia navigate and find new sources of investment and maybe even new trading partners in order to keep growing.
Thank you, moderator. It's a great honor to be here, by the way. Actually, JBIC conducted for more than five years on a survey of foreign direct investment. Now, the destination of a Japanese foreign direct investment right now, number one is the United States. So that the US is now the largest receiver of foreign direct investment from Japan. We are the largest investor to the United States right now. But at the same time, we conducted the survey on this, asking which countries are the most prominent countries. More than 20 years, China took the first seat up to 2017, but sharply declined. Now China is number 6. Number 1 is India. Number 2 is Vietnam. Number 3, United States. Number 4, Indonesia. So that last year, Indonesia was a 5th seat, but now 4th seat. This is like a beauty contest. More than 500 Japanese foreign direct investors answer to that. That Indonesia is now ranking up to number 5 to number 4. That's a prominent. This is not the existing one. This is the prominent, so the future investment, it means. Now, on the global agenda, 2 most important agenda of the global economy. One is carbon neutrality. The other one is a digital transformation, like AI data center, like Hashim referred to. And now the NTT Data that Hashim met in Tokyo, that NTT Data is the second largest operator of AI data center world. They are investing 2 countries, mostly in United States and also in India. In coming March, that the NTT Data launch that new ceremony of AI data center in nearby Mumbai in March. Therefore, that JBIC, by the way, we are playing a role of the sovereign wealth fund of Japan. We deploy $300 million funding for India-Japan fund. It's a $600 million. So that we deploy half of the fund, most focused on that AI data center, and also that's the renewable energy and those carbon neutrality related, also circular economy. This is a very strategic investment. So, as the moderator introduced me, that I was also special advisor to the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Kishida, and his agenda is that the AZEC, Asia Zero Emission Community, which will replace JETP of the G7. JETP is a Just Energy Transition Platform, but now AZEC, Asia Zero Emission Community. The members are all ASEAN countries and Australia and Japan. In August last year, I was here with my friend Ken Saito, the METI minister, and my counterpart in the country on this regard is Pa Airlangga Hartarto of the Coordinating Minister of Indonesia. Now, Pa Airlangga and I continue to discuss this, how to promote this agenda. And also, I met all of the leaders of ASEAN except Brunei and Cambodia last year. And I met Prime Minister Anwar of Malaysia. And also I met the Vietnamese top leader, Thuram. And we discussed how to invite foreign direct investment to these 2 most important agenda, carbon neutrality and AI data center. For example, in Malaysia, Prime Minister Anwar and I agreed to create the steering committee. He appointed his executive advisor as my counterpart. His name is Hassan Malikan, who is a former CEO of Petronas for more than 10 years. And then I proposed to Prime Minister Anwar, like Hashim said, that there's a huge potential of power from hydro in Sarawak, Kalimantan. But Sarawak's population is very small, no market. Therefore, I proposed to Prime Minister Anwar to transmit the power from the Sarawak to Johor Peninsula by construction of under-the-sea power cable. So my team is also invited to Japanese manufacturer, which is Sumitomo Electric and Hitachi Energy, to supply those power cable, the high voltage direct current the technology. Because of the cost of the power generation in Sarawak is 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Very, very competitive. There's no demand in Sarawak. Maybe they submit power to Johor. In Singapore and Malaysia jointly created a special economic zone in Johor. Now that the Singaporean capital is going to invest in it. Therefore, that we're now supporting this project. But Malaysian secret is that they already allow that more free data traffic and also third-party access to grid system. So that we invited TNB, the sovereign state-owned enterprise of power transmission from Malaysia, to be a partner. In Vietnam, by the way, I had a meeting with Thuram, the top leaders, the Secretary General of the Communist Party. I spent 90 minutes with him. Why? Because that he is very much eager to introduce the AI data center in Vietnam. And one day after my meeting with Thuram, he met the NVIDIA chairman, Jason Huang. Because the NVIDIA is a fabulous company of semiconductor chips, GPU, but they invest in the AI data center in Malaysia, not in Vietnam. Why? Because of the regulation of localization of data is relaxed in Malaysia, not in Vietnam. Also that in Indonesia as well. So but probably Indonesia is the larger population than Malaysia, than Vietnam, and also that high potential of hydropower and solar power and wind power than Vietnam. So that Vietnam is now a little bit ahead. Malaysia is far ahead, but Indonesia is the most potential. And also that the island of the Kalimantan. You have a new capital city in Nusantara in the eastern Kalimantan. But the Kalimantan has a huge potential of the hydropower. So how we can use this source of power, the cheap power, to be invested to the AI data center businesses, because it's a booming. There are many of the U.S. AI data center is constructed nearby the nuclear power generation plant, like Indiana, for example. India has nothing, but they have nuclear power. But Indonesia doesn't have a nuclear power yet. And JBIC is the second largest shareholder of the SMR company NuScale, which is advanced, the small modular reactor company. We are the second largest. Third is Korea, first is the United States, but now we are doing a very strategic investment. So I'm delighted to work with you on this, because Indonesia is the fourth, the most prominent potential countries of the world for direct investment. But we are going to materialize together with you on this agenda, not just only that the AI data center, but also that compatible of carbon neutrality as well. But it's a future agenda. It's a future agenda, so that the infrastructure, for example, that the needs to a long leading time, more than 5 years, they have to lead time for until that the revenue is generating, so that we have to be patient. But we need to be working together with you. I'm more than happy to do it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Maeda-san. And on that final point, I would say that we've also looked at the Indonesia energy transition, and we completely agree that by 2060 or earlier, if we are going to be net zero while ensuring secure, affordable, and sustainable energy, nuclear is actually a very viable option, and perhaps even a necessary. Bad or good, we don't know, but necessary for this economy to continue powering it for years to come. So thank you, Maeda-san, for sharing your insights. One question that I would like to pose to all of us, all of you, which is, if you could, wish for one thing to happen and start happening now, so that we can actually accelerate towards our growth ambition of more than 8%. What would be that one wish that we could already start on, that first most critical step that is needed to ensure sustainable and accelerated growth over the next years? Pak Anindya. Let's start with you.
Can I do two?
Of course.
So, I guess as chairman of KADIN, I have the luxury to meet a lot of ministers to understand their programs. So the two programs that come to mind in the last, I would say 1 month, that's quite interesting. Number one, migrant workers. I think we have 1.5 million backlog of migrant workers that we can tap, right? Today, we have 5 million, and 80% of them are domestic workers, so low-level workers. These 1.5 million workers, they are mostly going to come from nurse, hospitality, as well as fishing. But let's talk about the first one. I think to Japan, for example, they need, the number is saying at least 200,000. So 200,000 times $2,000 per month. That's a lot of money, right? That's $400 million times 12, that's $4.8 billion. So I think that's sort of like hidden gem. I know it is not easy to train nurses. You know, I know a hospital that can only do 1,000 a year, but we just came back from India. They can do a lot. So I think that's kind of like low-hanging fruit. The second one, I think the blue economy needs to be explored much, much more, right? For two reasons. One, you know, in shrimp, tuna, seaweed, squid, I think we can actually dominate in this space if we do it well. And the market per year is about $200 billion per year. And I think, you know, being an archipelago, I think we should do well. And plus the conservation of the coral. And I think the minister is trying to do 30 million hectares that can potentially bring in about $20 million just from the CO2 capture. I think that's also quite interesting. So migrant workers tap that, and also the blue economy from the export as well as the carbon capture.
Wonderful, Pak Anindya. So migrant workers and the blue economy. Thank you. Pak Hashim.
Actually, I have two on the wish list for immediate action. It's clean air, air pollution, affecting my grandchildren, our grandchildren. So that's on number one. But the second thing is this is more on the economic side. You know, Indonesia has one of the lowest revenue to GDP ratios in the world. We have one of the lowest tax ratios, but revenue includes tax, customs, excise, royalties from mining, oil and gas, coal, copper, gold. We have the lowest in the world, one of the lowest. I think only Pakistan, of the major countries, only Pakistan is lower than us. At the moment, the target is 12.1 to 12.3% a year. We think, and I can tell you that the government is soon going to undertake some programs to increase the revenue ratio. Our target is to reach Cambodia's level, which should not be too difficult. Now, Cambodia's revenue ratio is 18%. Indonesia's revenue ratio is 12.1 to 12.2%. Why is Cambodia 6% higher than Indonesia? I ask you. I already know the answer, by the way. So the government is going to very soon is going to start programs to increase. And our target, Mr. Maeda, our target is Cambodia and eventually Vietnam. Vietnam is 23%. Yeah? Vietnam's ratio, just to give you an example, if we were to reach Cambodia's level, our economy, our apparent economy is 1.5 trillion. However, the World Bank estimates our gray economy, shadow economy. It used to be called the black economy, but it's very un-PC these days, you know. We're not allowed to say black economy. It has to be shadow economy. The shadow economy is estimated to be 25 to 30% of GDP. So our real economy, the real economy, including the shadow, is $1.9 trillion a year. So if we can capture this 25%, which we will, with new technology, high technology-based, artificial intelligence, AI, electronic monitoring, we'll be able to increase. So just to give you an example, 6% of $1.5 trillion is $90 billion extra every year. That is President Prabowo's target, to increase our revenue by $90 billion a year over the next few years. And we're optimistic. I'm privy to some of these programs. We'll get there soon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Pak Hashim. Clean air, absolutely, and boosting revenue per GDP to Cambodia's level and eventually to Vietnam's level, and shining a light on the shadow economy. Thank you. Pak Ridha?
Well, it's kind of difficult, but let me just actually echo what Pak Hashim says with one word, memento mori. I was in Denmark one day and I said, what the heck is memento mori? Memento mori means remember death. And I said, why is it such an important thing? Well, it means remember death so you can actually appreciate life. So one thing that I wish is remember our mistakes and look at our mistakes so we could be a better person and a better nation. Now, I think Pak Hashim mentioned so much about a lot of the things that we still have to improve. So I just wanted to emphasize again a simple example as I mentioned before. Why do we, our manufacturing portion to GDP has declined in the last 20 years, from 30% in 2002 to about 19% today. That's our mistake. We have to learn. Why are we importing 90% to 95% of all of the medical equipments and all the pharmaceutical ingredients to be able to have a health, a good health industry? The same thing with other areas. So look at our mistakes, look at our weaknesses, take pride, fix them, and be a better person. So I just wanted to say, memento mori. Remember that so you could appreciate life more.
Wonderful, Pak Ridha. Memento mori. And reversing the deindustrialization trend that we are seeing, which is actually something that we have also learned from other high-income economies. No premature deindustrialization. And last but not least, Maida-san.
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to raise two issues. One is a supply chain of critical minerals. This is also that agenda of the President Donald Trump right now. Not just only that the mineral itself, full supply chain, including processing and others, and also that recycling, for example, lithium and cobalt from scrapped GPU, for example, to pull out the lithium and cobalt out of this review. This is very sensitive that we can do together on this issue. This is the first point. The second point is that the civil use of the technology over military technology. While the President Prabowo was the defense minister in 2021, I had negotiated with him on the deployment of frigates, battleship from Japan to Indonesia, 6 frigates. And out of 6, probably that later ship can be manufactured in Indonesia. So this is a very good, but long term, has been taboo for Japan, but now has been changing right now. Dual use, or civil use and military use. Therefore, that's, for example, that drone technology and submarine and others, they're the kind of a dense technology of the top-notch technology. We are the very leading country, but used to be very delay and long term. It takes a long time. So people criticize Japan as a NATO. You know NATO? No action, talk only. NATO. But not anymore. We are doing by driving this because that INA, for example, I make the very small contribution to create a sovereign wealth fund of Indonesia with the Padhut Panjaitan. And JBICS play a role of a sovereign wealth fund. That we deploy the fund together with the Indian sovereign wealth fund and IIF to create a $600 million fund for Japan-India. We did many years ago with Russia, the direct investment fund. We created Russia-Japan investment fund up to $1 billion. We are the only investor. We are deploy only from Japan, so that we deploy half of the fund with Russia. But because after Russian aggression to Ukraine, it's now suspended at this moment. But we can do the same thing with my friends from INA and others of investment, because the role of the leading of this strategic investment is the role of the sovereign wealth fund. And then we're going to be a spearhead, and the private sector is now follow us. That's model I created. So that's in the case of India. India Prime Minister Narendra Modi requested me to do it in 2022, and I completed it in 2023. 1 year later, only 1 year. This is a more focus on that recycling and of circular economy. Most this India fund is. But this agenda is different by country. So we can set up the same common agenda with Indonesia by making this as kind of a strategic investment vehicle. That's my final point. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Maeda-san, strategic investment vehicle. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching the end of this panel. It has been a wonderful hour together. And I would like to say that, your insights have been amazing. And I think it fills us with a sense of opportunity that now is our moment to actually seize the day, to actually look forward and invest to Indonesia's full growth potential starting from now and into the future. Thank you very much, Pak Anindya, Pak Hashim, Pak Ridha, and Maeda-san. Let's put our hands together for our panelists today, and I'll hand over to the MC. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khoon Tee Tan, for also leading the session. And let's give a big hands as well for Mr. Khoon Tee Tan as the moderator. And I'm inviting all the speakers as well as moderator to maybe stand a little bit forward, take 2 steps in front of your chair. We have a token of appreciation to all of the speakers and moderator. Would like to invite Mr. Sofian Jalil, the board of IBC. We heard confidence, big opportunities for investments in Indonesia. Once again, we truly appreciate for all these esteemed speakers who have spoken on this very, very exciting panel. Once again, thank you, Mr. Maeda, thank you, Mr. Ridha, Mr. Hashim, and also Mr. Anin and Mr. Khoon Tee Tan for leading the session. And let's take this chance for photo opportunity. Don't forget to smile, gentlemen, to the camera. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's do a bit shift to the left. Yes, another round of session, photo session. Thank you very much. Thank you all speakers. Thank you moderator. Thank you Mr. Sofian Jalil. We truly appreciate your time and your insights for this session.